Good morning. Welcome to the episode of HardFoul. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself, however you are listening, whether it is on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and or SoundCloud. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. You know, I really don't know how I feel about this episode or this show, whatever terminology you want to use. I'm very conflicted. I'm one of those people who I can understand, for the most part, everybody's side in an argument. I don't always have to agree, but I'm like, all right, I get it. I get why you feel that way. So if you are a football fan of any kind, then you understand where I'm about to go with this. Yesterday, multiple teams, Steelers, Seahawks, Titans, didn't even come out for the national anthem. Multiple players kneed during the national anthem, sat during the national anthem. LaShawn McCoy was doing stretches. I'm very... I don't know anymore. Is police brutality real? Yes. Are there legitimate inequalities in this country? Yes. And obviously everyone's heated after what Trump said. I get it. I also understand the idea of if you work anywhere else, you do not bring your politics or your personal feelings to work. There's actually a word for this. It's called compartmentalize. Home is at home. Work is at work. Personal life stays with personal life. Like, that's a thing. It's not just, oh, well, because we have a different kind of job or we have a certain platform, we're supposed to do this. I don't buy that. It's the same reason why I don't sit there and buy into the notion of, idolizing NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball players. A lot of these guys aren't probably the best people. A lot of these guys do really stupid things. They're 20-year-olds with millions of dollars. I don't blame them. I don't take them to task for the bad choices they make, because idolizing them or putting so much stock in them is on me, or would be on me if I were to do that. You know, I've always been one of those people, and I don't like to discuss politics because politics itself is divisive, and I love sports because you can disagree sports all you want. I can be a Bronco fan, you can be a Charger fan, and we could disagree as much as any two people have ever disagreed about something. But it really doesn't matter that much. Like, it's not going to change the course of the world if I think a Denver player is better than a Charger player, or vice versa. Whereas politics, people with their votes genuinely impact your life. I've also been of the mindset, if you're going to get into politics, most people worry too much on a federal level than a state level, where state politics impact your life on a daily basis. Federal level politics, one or two big things will affect you maybe on a daily basis, but for the most part, you could live your life and never have to worry about them. Sports is an escape. I don't feel like dealing with the BS that goes on in the world. I can watch a football game. I can watch a basketball game. I'm no longer able to do that. Just wanted to watch football yesterday. It's not me denouncing what's going on in the world. It's not me saying or not dismissing what's going on in the world. I just don't want to deal with it right now. And don't call me some terrible person, because everybody does this. This is why people still go out on Friday and Saturday nights and get drunk and go party and go do whatever they're going to do. And even the greatest social justice warriors of them all aren't on the clock 100 every hour of the day. There's so many things that you could do with this. And what a lot of these have turned into, and I already talked about when I did my top 5 headlines going into the 2017 season, and you can go look at that video on my channel or go look up the episode I did that podcast in. I said the number one headline was going to be Colin Kaepernick. The impact, him getting signed, the protest, I knew that wasn't going away. It was going to be here all season. Right or wrong, that's what was going to happen. So, because I already kind of figured, okay, this is going to happen, I was like, all right, I really won't be that shocked when guys kneel, guys sit, guys do whatever they do. But yesterday, I did have a very weird reaction to it. I also have issue with the internet, because a lot of these people that are on the internet that are shouting, posting pictures, saying, F Donald Trump, or saying, like, there were literally guys just, like, the people were attacking the flag itself. What did the flag ever do? Understand historical and I keep pausing here because I'm really torn, because, like, you're not even allowed to just be like, okay, I get why you're upset, but also understand why these people say, because no, that doesn't work. It's either be this side, be that side, or F you. And because the internet is so loud, they will let you know this side, that side, F you. You know what the internet really is? The internet is the proverbial dog that's all bark and no bite. They're really loud. They'll bark at you. They'll keep coming at you. Keep shouting. But they don't bite. You know how I know they don't bite? Because I was talking with a friend actually. If the internet actually had a bite, wasn't just all bark, we'd have a different president. When people talk about politics, and like I said, I hate that I have to do this, but I legitimately feel this has to be said. There is no, oh, well, I'll just kind of look past it. Or, like, I was talking to my grandmother, and she was like, just do a throwback show. And even though I agree with the idea, I think it needs to be said. When you talk about politics, and especially this last election, one of the things that comes up is, oh, with Bernie Sanders, who the internet loves, if he ran against Donald Trump, would he win? He ran against Hillary Clinton and lost, and Hillary Clinton ran against Donald Trump and lost. So no, I don't think if he was running, he would have beaten Donald Trump. Because the internet is really loud, really loves Bernie Sanders, didn't show up to vote for him. Anyone notice that attendance was up this week? Did anyone notice that NFL ratings went up this week? The internet would tell you, oh yeah, don't watch the games, don't go to the games, boycott the NFL. Okay, internet, you keep barking. Here's my issue with the bark all bark and no bite mentality. Trump comes out and makes his comments. You know, one of the first people to react to her? The NFL owners. Aren't the owners the same people that everyone got mad at for not signing Kaepernick? But now we're all on the same team? Isn't that interesting? If the internet had a bite, we'd have less people at NFL games. And don't bring up the Chargers or the Rams, because the first week of the season, their first home game for each of those teams, they were bad. People knew they were, but people thought they were going to be bad. The Rams have turned out to be better than that. No one goes to watch a crappy product. Seattle still sells out. Denver still sells out. New England still sells out. Chargers play the Chiefs. They sell out. Chiefs sold out. It gets to a point where do you draw the line on who's being divisive? Take the Steelers, for example. And like I said, before I go any further, you have a right to protest. That is 100% correct. And you have peaceful protest. I will never condone a violent protest. That's when you just get ignorant and you completely take whatever you're doing and you completely ruin it. If you are peacefully protesting, you have that right. People don't have to follow your protest, though. People can also protest your protest. Alejandro Villanueva, if I said that correctly, for the Steelers, she's a guard, was in the Army. He came out, put his hand over his heart, and he stood for the national anthem. And he got vilified on Twitter for it. Like, oh my gosh, like he was seen as this, you're a terrible person because you're not standing with the rest of your teammates. Or someone literally put a picture up and it was just photoshopped. It was Alejandro Villanueva says, "Black lives don't matter." What? Are you kidding me? The Patriots, they're half and half. Half their guys are kneeling, half their guys aren't. Fans shouting at them, fans shouting in the stands both ways, "Get up," or calling them other things. People are... I don't even know anymore. The shirt I'm wearing right now, and it's supposed to be a joking shirt, but it actually has a lot more truth to it right now. It's, "If you see the police, Warner Brother." And it's got the Warner Brother logo. I got it a few years back. It's really fun. It's a funny shirt. I'd love to know, like, if you actually sat everyone down, because the expression of everyone's cool behind a keyboard, or everyone's tough behind a keyboard or behind their tweet, it's so true. Because I'd like to actually sit people down and talk to them and ask. It's like, my first question I would ask, considering on this whole conversation, is, did you vote? I have a whole lot of friends that love to talk politics, and I'm like, did you vote? No. What? You didn't vote? You're going to complain about something that you have a say in, but you didn't act on the thing that would allows you to have a say in it. but you're still complaining. Okay. That's proving my point once again of all bark, no bite. Let's look at this, for example. A lot of people, or younger people, I think older people already kind of knew, a lot of younger people were introduced to what's called the silent majority. Okay? So doesn't that mean if there's a silent majority and you believe that's what got him in office, doesn't that mean the loud minority has to be a thing? And I want to try to hit every point on this because I'm not trying to come from a one-sided view, because I think that's the problem right now. And it's a problem with politics, is it's everything has to be this one-sided view, so you just get two sides who are on opposite sides, and all they do is shout at each other. And they don't want to reason, they just want to shout louder than the other person. For all these NBA players that are coming out, and like LeBron and Steph, and your voice is your voice, your words are your words, you're allowed to say what you want to say, completely understand that, as long as we're not going into death threats. Death threats aren't okay. I don't care if it's the president or some dude who lives down the street. Do they understand that there is a rule in the NBA? Like, the NBA has a rule that prohibits players from kneeling or not standing during the national anthem. And that if you are not standing for the national anthem, you cannot play and your game check is put on hold. To what degree put on hold, I don't know. But they're like the loudest guys doing this right now. And they can't even act on the thing they're being so loud about. The only good thing that I see about this is it's like, yes, you raise an issue, as long as you keep it peaceful, that is how you create change. People always complain about the government. Well, this is, by peacefully protesting, the only way that you can truly make the government work for you. It shouldn't be, but it is the way. So I'm not mad at the fact there's actions being taken. What I'm mad and disappointed, not even mad, I'm disappointed in, is how is the action that's being used and how it's being worded. There's a lot of people who use meme logic. They read a picture online, it has one or two sentences, and they run off those one or two sentences, and that's their news. Like I said, literally the Villanueva standing with his hand over his heart for the national anthem, and his teammates in the tunnel, got turned into a meme, and it was literally he doesn't like black people. And there's people who are probably going to go to bed tonight thinking Alejandro Villanueva doesn't like black people. At what point do we stop asking someone who wasn't there, someone who was not involved, someone who was not affiliated with the situation in any way, shape, and or form? When do we stop blaming them? I have black friends and I have white friends. I've never once looked at my white friends and been like, you know what? Your great grandfather was probably a racist. That means you're probably a racist. Hate Trump as much as you want. That's your right. But it doesn't mean you hate all white people. It doesn't mean you hate the flag, which is been here long before Trump, will be here far after Trump, was here long, not long before racism because of how America was made, but will be here. The racism's the wrong word because racism might not ever go away. But that's because it's not something that you can make a law about or something you can just switch and be like, all right, cool, no one's racist anymore. Maybe I'm the wrong person because I'm half black, I'm half white. I don't come from a totally black family. I come from majority a white family. Or maybe that makes me the perfect person to talk about this because I see both sides. I see both perspectives. I have a friend who he's one of my, if not my very best, he's one of my 2 or 3 best friends. He's dating a black girl. Hangs out with me all the time. But he does one wrong thing, and it's we were talking about it. 2 words in 2017 that you are completely guilty before innocent. The exact opposite of our law is rapist and racist. It's just wrong. I guess, I probably haven't put this together as well as most people would like. I probably haven't put this, constructed this in the best way, shape, and or form. Not denying that, because it's a very odd and hard thing to talk about without just taking one side and being like, oh, all cops and white people are evil, F the flag. Or saying everyone that's kneeling is a piece of shit and they're just being jackasses. Let's just understand something, though. I guess if I want to get one overarching theme to this is, let's not trust the internet. The internet is way louder than it should be, and it just barks. It has no bite. But when you're part of that bark, NFL owners, after not doing the thing, players started protesting. The guy who started this whole protest, not signing him. NBA players who won't even look in their own rule book and see that they can't do this. Other dominant figures in sports coming out and having these loud opinions. This stuff is all divisive. This stuff is all separating the country. Like, if I can just make one thing really clear here. We can have completely different views. And the media and the internet will make it seem like there's no way we can coexist. When that is the farthest thing from the truth. I hold doors open for people. I've never once held a door open for someone and as soon as they're walking by, looked at him and say, are you a conservative or a liberal? What's your opinion on the LGBT community? How do you feel about race relations in America? That doesn't happen. We're all people. We're all, if you're in the USA, not everyone has to be in the USA that's watching this or listening. We're Americans. Like, we don't have to be divided. We don't have to be this team or that team. It works in sports because it's for 3 hours a day. I don't like those guys. They're wearing that uniform. Okay. I don't like the team. I don't like the guys in that uniform. And once they get out of that uniform, they're a person. All you guys on Twitter, Facebook, all these different social media outlets to shout your opinion at us or shout your opinion at people. You guys don't have a uniform and then take that uniform off. You walk around looking like everybody else and then just shouting when they can't see you. That's called guerrilla warfare. That makes me sad. Like, the fact I had to start the show off like that is like, and I always have notes and like different information in front of me, you guys, and I don't have it for this one. I have, like, literally, if you look at my notes, like, I have a baseball topic I want to talk about, Melo and DWade, my reactions from the NFL, the actual games. I have nothing about what I just said written down in front of me. That's genuinely how I feel. And it sucks. Like, it sucks that something that I used to escape, like, the BS of everyday life, which everybody does. It sucks that I couldn't escape it yesterday. And I was so torn on, like, how do you even express that to people? America. So now that we've cleared that part out, we're on to regular sports. I'm hoping I don't have to address this ever again. I probably will. Really don't want to. Okay, so let's go into a topic that I think was really interesting. Obviously, on Saturday, there was the trade that came out of right field, and it was Carmelo Anthony was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Knicks received Doug McDermott and Enes Kanter and a 2018 second-round pick, if I'm correct, in the deal for Melo. And then Sunday night, DWade was released, or him and the Chicago Bulls agreed to a buyout. All right. Where do I stand on these trades or at these transactions? DWade, I think, is more of a headline than a storyline, because DWade hasn't been that kind of player for now. Better part of 3-4 years. Like, he just hasn't been that player. So when you have a guy like that who just has a big name because he has a great resume, sounds good, really doesn't mean much. It's like an artist who's at the end of his career and he's got this great catalog, but he can't sing as well really anymore. Maybe he's used all the lines that he knows. If he's a rapper, if he's a guitarist, he's played just about every chord he can think of. That's what DWade is. Melo, on the other hand, I think is really interesting, only because the Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the few teams that haven't bought into this analytic, shoot three-pointers, play fast. Like, they still play like an old school basketball team. I think they were the worst three-point shooting team in the league last year and took like the second fewest. And that's the kind of team Melo needs to be on. He's not a great three-point shooter. Make him when he's hot. He is a elbow scorer, elbow down scorer, and he's one of the best in the world at it. I mean, for everyone that said he had a terrible year last year, he still averaged almost 23 points. Not a whole lot of guys can do that. You put Westbrook, whoever at the 2. I'm putting Paul George at the 3, and I'm putting Melo at the 4. This is how LeBron has transitioned to showing some defensive slides, but not getting called out for as much of it, except when he has to go play small forwards. LeBron, when he gets to slide down to the 4, like he did it during Miami when they put Bosh at the 5, LeBron at the 4, like, he doesn't get exposed as easily because he's still strong enough to play with most power forwards in the league, and they're not going to go by him. Melo's same way, strong enough to play with most fours, and they won't go by him. They only really get exposed when he's got to go play a 3 or when he tries to go play a 2. If Westbrook, who won't average, I'm convinced now, won't average a triple-double again this year, has 2 guys on his team that can both get him 20-plus points, and I think between Melo and George, one's going to have to accept the role of being the first guy to come out in the first quarter, and so that he's going to be able to play with the backups during the second quarter while Westbrook's on the bench, which I think Melo is perfect for that role. If you think about a dude who you want to run the offense through him, because that's just when he's most comfortable, he needs to get his shots. He's not a playmaker, and the ball does stick to him. So if I'm playing with 2 or 3 guys who are in there for specific reasons, i.e. rebounding, i.e. passing, what better guy to put him with than Carmelo Anthony? Other thing about Melo that I think is really interesting is that gives you the guy who can naturally score 30. Paul George, to me, is a rough around the edges scorer. He's not. He's a more of a fundamentalist than he is a raw scorer. Russell Westbrook is truly just athleticism and 100 miles an hour effort. That's how he scores his 30. Melo you can run sets, and Melo can get score for you 3 or 4 possessions in a row, even in his, let ESPN tell it, even in his worthless years. So I like the Melo move. DWade, I'm so on. So, as you guys know, I've been doing my lists, and I've talked about football, I've talked about basketball. I think I've had 2 basketball lists already. I forget my list. I do them, and then I'm like, something else comes up, and I'm like, oh, I can think of this guy. So, I was talking to one of my baseball people over the weekend. I say people, they're friends. And we were like, top 10 players you've ever seen. This was a personalized list. This was a, how would you say? Personalized is just the only word that you need. Like, when you have, like, list of, like, okay, who's the 10 greatest players, or who's the, I feel like I'm just rambling on, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm, like, really out of it right now. So these are my top 10 baseball players I've ever seen, personally. And when I was going through this, I really got stuck on 10 through 4, whereas I'd rank them, whereas I definitively know my top 3. So, 10 through 4 in no specific order. Manny Ramirez, Derek Jeter, Justin Verlander, Clayton Kershaw, Troy Tulowitzki, Joe Mauer, and Miguel Cabrera. Let me explain some of these, because I think the ones that are easy are, I think no one would argue Cabrera. I think no one would argue Kershaw. No one would argue Derek Jeter. Manny Ramirez, even if he was using steroids, we all remember Manny would, right? We all remember how literally breaking the curse in Boston was centered around Manny Ramirez and David Ortiz, right? And David Ortiz didn't play defense, so I got to give the edge to Manny. Manny was also just one of those, he was Brett Favre, but in a baseball. He was carefree. He was, how would you put, like, he was a gunslinger. Like, think about this. Manny Ramirez is the only person in a professional game that would ever cut off the center fielder from left field. That's That says something about someone. Super fun to watch. One of my top 10. Verlander was one of 3 pitchers who I've ever considered that were just dominant ahead of the game. Him and Kershaw, you got to give them both that credit. It literally transitioned for, like, Verlander gave the crown to Kershaw. It's like, all right, cool. It's your league now. Kershaw, self-explanatory. Troy Tulowitzki. I made the point about Mike Trout on last Friday's show about why he's the MVP, and it's because 100 games of Mike Trout is literally just as good as everybody else on 160 games. Tulowitzki used to be the best shortstop in baseball, and it wasn't close, and he only put in 120 games. When a guy can get injured for 30, 40 games, and he's still more valuable than the next best guy who plays the full season, that's incredible. Joe Mauer is the best hitting catcher I've ever seen. He has 3 batting titles to his name, a 30 home run season. He's I'd make the case, the greatest player in Twins history. I know, there's some Kirby Puckett fans out there that are probably yelling at me right now. Miguel Cabrera, self-explanatory, Triple Crown, going to the Hall of Fame. We all know, yeah. My top 3. Number 3, Roy Halladay. I've never been more impressed by a Major League Baseball pitcher. Roy Halladay is the only guy he's the only guy post 2000 that when he took the ball, you really thought he was going to complete game your team. Not just 6 stellar innings, not just 7 stellar innings. He was going to throw a complete game. You were getting 1 run, 2 runs max, game over. He did this in what was at the time the best division in baseball, the American League East. And then he went to the National League. And, what's he do in the National League? I don't know, just gets a Cy Young, throws a no-hitter in the playoffs, throws 250-plus innings multiple times. It was him or Sabathia, I forget who was 1 and who was 2 for most complete games during that decade. I've never, as great as Kershaw is and as great as Verlander, so I think we're have higher peaks than Roy Halladay, but also have much better stuff. I've never been more fearful of a pitcher against my team than Roy Halladay. Number 2. And I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I pump this guy up so much, but it's Mike Trout. I mean, I don't know what's left to say about him that I haven't already. He's, I think, going to go down as one of the 2 or 3 greatest players of all time, if not the greatest player of all time. Just out the gate, not out the gate, he did struggle technically the first time he was called up. Think about that. Mike Trout was sent down to the minor leagues. But the only guy in baseball who's when healthy, a 30-30 Gold Glove center fielder who hits for a good average. I'm out of superlatives. So, Mike Trout's number 2. Number 1, and this guy is everything that I say about Trout. This is who was pre-Trout. This is the guy who was, bar none, the greatest player I had ever seen, and it wasn't close. There's like 3 people who, in the 2000s, that I'm like, okay, yeah, it's obvious. Like, the NFL, always you could make a case. You had Manning, you had LT, you had the Steelers, like guys like Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed. There's a bunch of guys who I can make a case were the greatest players. And I'm talking about greatest just in terms of, like, not just who threw the ball the best or who had the best resume or just when you just see them, they're just different than everyone. Like Troy Polamalu was just different than everyone. But I never had that guy for the NFL who I was like, he's clearly the best in the league. It's not even close. The three guys in the 2000s who I'm like, it's not even close in their profession. Lil Wayne, Kobe Bryant, and maybe the biggest difference between him and number two is when Albert Pujols, the machine, 600 home runs, one of the 2 or 3 greatest right-handed hitters the game's ever seen. I mean, where do you run out of things to say? Albert Pujols was the only other guy who Buck Showalter, who intentionally walked Barry Bonds with the bases loaded, would say he'd walk with the bases loaded. That's how terrifying he was. Albert, for a 10-year stretch, was the greatest player ever. Like, he statistically has the greatest 10-year stretch in the history of the sport. That's not me talking and me saying, just pumping a gap. That's statistically has the greatest 10-year stretch in the history of the sport. And he could play defense. He was a very good base runner despite not being fast. He was everything. He was the GOAT. The reason Trout's past him is only because Trout has actual speed and Trout plays a harder position. But that's Albert Pujols is, I don't think it's debatable. He's the greatest baseball player I've ever seen. Especially up to this point. I promise you guys I'm working on a little soundtrack so that way I can have some music playing while I'm not talking. Because I know it's awkward to have just like the muted. But also want to say a huge shout out if you're listening to the Reddit community for the podcast Reddit community and the Denver Bronco Reddit community. Even though I know the Bronco Reddit community is mad at me. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Thank you guys for the views. Also, I realized I was kind of contorting my podcast and adjusting it to fit with YouTube, which is going to now be the reverse. The YouTube's going to have to kind of adjust to the podcast because I'm not doing this to be a YouTuber. I'm doing this because I love my podcast. I love talking about sports. So it's podcast first, YouTube second. So I'll be posting up on YouTube, but it'll be kind of like just another outlet. I plan on having a website up where you can see the links to the videos, the episodes, all that good stuff. But that won't be until December or January. Should be getting a green screen in here in about another week or two. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Normally I try to, between topics, I've been trying to get stuff on Twitter and stuff on, little fun jokes and stuff you can find on the internet. As I said in my first segment, the internet's not a great place right now, so I don't have those. So we're just going to get into my 3 takeaways from week 3. My 3 biggest takeaways are the AFC West and teams in general showed their one-sidedness. Why did Denver lose to Buffalo? Well, because their defense is that good, but their offense played like we thought their offense was going to play. Why did Oakland lose to Washington? Well, their offense, it struggled, and their defense can't carry that team. You know who did really well? The Chiefs. Balanced offense and defense. The Falcons, high-powered offense, a young defense that is up and coming and starting to look like they're going to be big time in the next year or two. They're 3-0. Number 2, Cam Newton, guys, might already be done. And no one wants to admit this, no one wants to say this, and he's lasted longer than all the other mobile quarterbacks. But when RG3 broke down, he broke down quick. When Vince Young broke down, he broke down quick. when Johnny Manziel, we're not going to compare Johnny Manziel to Cam Newton. I'm not doing that. Cam Newton, I hate to say it, but he might just be done. Can't throw the ball. He can't run. He might be injured, but at this point, if he's injured, don't play. Because you're just ruining the image of what we thought Cam Newton was. Like, he hit that all-time high when he went to the Super Bowl, and it has been nothing but downhill, and it is going fast. My number 3 takeaway is I'm on fire with my picks. I am 6-3. Yeah, 6-3, and one of my games got canceled out to a natural disaster. 6 of 9 games I've picked correctly. I know what I'm talking about. Another takeaway, and I'm going to end on this. The worst thing I've seen in terms of just watching the games itself. Did anyone watch the Broncos-Bills game? Did anyone see what might be the worst call in NFL history? Like, I tweeted this, and I had a pretty good reaction out of this. Like, so Von Miller gets a sack on Tyrod Taylor. Or he doesn't get the sack, but he gets pressure, hits him. It's third down, get an incompletion. Buffalo's going to have to punt the ball to Denver. And it was a 7-point game at this time. Von goes to reach his hand out. And when Tyrod Taylor goes to reach his hand, he like high-fives his hand like, haha, not picking you up. Von Miller laughs about it. Tyrod Taylor laughs about it. The ref throws a flag. Unsportsmanlike conduct, 15 yards. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious right now? You're going to give him an unsportsmanlike conduct for a joking high five that both players were laughing at? I put it on Twitter, and I was like, that ref had no friends. He had no friends growing up. No one did any high fives or handshakes with him. That might be the worst call I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know what I'd love to hear, and it probably won't even take it that far. I'd love to hear what justification, if they asked league office, why was this a call? I'd love to hear what they have to say. And Vaughn, extremely professional, he went out and said, you know what, that's my mistake. I tell the young guys all the time, don't do stupid stuff, and I did something stupid. Vaughn, I will defend you, as well as the rest of America will. That was not stupid. That ref should be fired. He had no friends. He needs to go make a friend and make a handshake. That is ridiculous, outrageous, and the dumb. If it's not the worst call ever, it's the dumbest call I've ever seen in my life. Like, oh my God. You know what? Because people question how well I know Denver. Maybe this is like long-term karma for the Jake Cutler fumble back in 2010, I'm sorry. No, maybe 2009, was the Jake Cutler fumble against San Diego, and the ball clearly went backwards, and they ruled it an incomplete pass, and San Diego fans have never forgotten Ed Hockley since then. Maybe this is long-term karma, and they were like, gotcha, unsportsmanlike conduct. Fuck that ref. Anyway, you guys, as always, go check me out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, HardFoul Podcast, Snapchat, JKid9080. Go subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, the YouTube channel. Man, I'm really still pissed about that ref. But I'll catch y'all on Wednesday. Fuck that ref.